There is always so much going on around the world, literally all the time. Here on The Update, we like to keep our viewers in tune on what's happening in the world around them, and we have been covering all of the leadership changes and elections that have happened around the world. There is a new leader for Hong Kong, and his name is John Lee. Lee is a big Beijing supporter and former security chief, and his focus will be on cracking down on the city. How it works is there is a committee of around 1,500 members who elect Hong Kong's leaders, and the majority of those people are Beijing loyalists, meaning they highly favor government intervention and people's liberties. Lee has even garnered U.S. sanctions against himself when he helped pass a law criminalizing most forms of political protest. Hong Kong is technically supposed to be providing rights such as freedom of speech and assembly, however, those are quickly disappearing. The new law transpired due to civil unrest back in 2019 with anti-government protests. And in Australia, a new Prime Minister will be elected on May 21st. The current Prime Minister is Scott Morrison, who is part of the Liberal Party, and is the first Prime Minister in over 14 years to serve a full term as leader. Morrison will be up against Anthony Albanese, who represents the Labour Party. Morrison's leadership went primarily well without much scrutiny, except for his travels during a time Australia was experiencing hardships. Now, Albanese has been in various roles throughout his 26 years in politics, and has finally had his chance to lead the Labour Party to potential victory later this month. And in Afghanistan, the Taliban is increasing laws with regards to women. Now, women's rights, or lack thereof, have always been a source of frustration. And with their latest actions, women's rights are regressing instead of progressing. Some new laws include requiring women to visit parks on separate days than men. Teenage girls are not permitted to return back to school. Other women are afraid to return to work. And in the latest development, they are now required to cover their full face in public. The Taliban had been pretty quiet since they acquired power back in August, but now they are making their voices heard by squashing women's rights. And in the U.S., major news coming in the form of a leaked Supreme Court draft opinion, which seems to overturn Roe v. Wade. Now, this is the first time in U.S. history something like this has happened, and protests and marches are taking place around the U.S., so we will see how this one develops. And today is Victory Day in Russia, and on Sunday they ramped up the airstrikes and shellings by targeting a school where citizens were hiding, killing 2 and possibly up to 60 people. Victory Day in Russia signifies their defeat of Nazi Germany, and many believed Putin would declare war officially on this day against Ukraine. Adding to Russian frustration, reports have been circulating about the U.S. government providing information that was imperative to Ukraine's efforts to strike down military generals and even the Moskva. This is worrisome as further sanctions and information provided will instigate Putin into a world war. Bombing is also still underway at the Azovstal steel plant. There have been successful efforts to evacuate civilians, mostly women, children, and the elderly, but others do still remain inside. Russia is still behind schedule and has been unable to make as much progress as once predicted, and leaders from around the world continue to visit Ukraine, solidifying their support. And the G7 leaders announced yesterday they would be elevating their campaign against Russian elites and continuing phasing out the use of Russian energy. And that's around the world here on The Update. Now,